Hi, everyone. I'm attorney Megan Pastrana. Welcome. So the question we have been receiving is about fiancé visas and why a fiancé visa would be denied. So let's go ahead. Let's dive in. The top 3 reasons for why K1 fiancé visas are denied. So I'd like to go over the 3 reasons that we have seen in helping hundreds of couples navigating the immigration process. The reasons that we see denials happen in K1 visa cases. And so I've really broken it down. There can be many, many reasons, but I try to be concise and give you a clear set of things that we see. And so I have identified 3 things that we commonly see for denials. And with the K1 fiancé visa, there are certain requirements that an individual has to meet. And so the first thing that we see with K1 fiancé visas, a basis for denial is that the person is not eligible. So we have seen that individuals had went ahead and they filed their own immigration case, they filed their own fiancé visa, but they actually weren't eligible. And so the requirements for the fiancé visa is that you have to be engaged to a United States citizen, and you both have to be legally free to marry. That means you both have to, if you were previously married, those marriages had to end in divorce or death, and that you're legally free to get married. You have to have a bona fide relationship based on love and not just to receive an immigration benefit. And you've had to have met in person within the past 2 years, and you can't have other grounds of inadmissibility. And so that's just a very quick overview. We have other separate videos on fiancé visa eligibility, but what we have seen is individuals who have filed for their fiancé visa, they filed on their own and they weren't actually eligible. Eligibility is tricky. In immigration, there's the Immigration and Nationality Act. It's the huge book of immigration laws, and it outlines a list. There's a section in there that outlines a list of problems a person can have, and that's where a person can actually have issues where they aren't going to ever be eligible for an immigration benefit. There are things called permanent bars, and then there are also issues that can be overcome with a waiver. And so if a person had certain immigration violations or criminal history, for example, in some cases there would be a waiver. And so we would see that the fiancé visa would be denied, but then the person would have an opportunity to file a waiver. In some cases, there wouldn't be a waiver. And with eligibility, it also is those eligibility requirements that I mentioned earlier. We've seen people who didn't calculate the date of their last meeting and it had actually fallen outside of the 2 years, for example, and they weren't eligible. Or they filed before they were actually completely divorced. And like I said, I could talk about this forever. There's a million examples, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a taste, a flavor, an idea of some of the reasons that a case could be denied. So that's what we've seen for people, again, who've done their own case and they weren't actually eligible. So that's the number one. That's the first reason that we would see a denial. A second reason that a case would be denied is that you did not meet your burden of proof. And so in an immigration case, it is your burden to prove certain things to immigration. Specifically with a fiancé visa, you have to prove that you have met within the past 2 years before filing the application, that you have a good faith relationship. And if you don't submit enough evidence, or your evidence is not enough to convince the adjudicator, the officer looking at your application, that you really do meet the requirements, then that would be another reason that we have seen cases be denied. So we've seen individuals that have done their own application and maybe they didn't have enough proof or enough clear proof of their 2-year meeting in person requirement, or they actually hadn't accumulated enough evidence of their relationship. So again, those are just some examples, but a second reason for a K1 visa denial would be that you didn't meet your burden of proof. And probably the top reason that we have seen individuals denied for a K1 visa is that you submit evidence that hurts your case. And what we do, just to kind of give you an overview of how meticulous you need to be when you're submitting evidence to immigration, when our clients provide us with the evidence for their case, we really get to know their personal story. We look at every case as its own unique story. And which makes our job extremely fun. But we do that because we really have to know intimately about how the couple met, when they met, how their relationship progressed, when it became serious, when an engagement happened, what family members know about the relationship. And we really look at all of the evidence they submit. And we look at the letters of support specifically that are provided by friends and family to make sure there aren't contradictions. We have seen many times that family members, even if they have met the person or they think that they remember the right date of when the couple met, there might be contradictions in the information. And those contradictions might be, they might be innocent, but you have to be very careful when you're submitting evidence to immigration that you aren't submitting evidence that's hurting your case. And again, it can be very innocent. You might be submitting letters of support or photos, bank statements, all kinds of evidence. But immigration is not just going to quickly look at your photos, quickly look at the statements. They're really going to look at all of the information. Another quick example is we have seen individuals who reference, or in the letters of support references, the couple's wedding and when they were married. And if you're talking about a fiancé visa, you have to be engaged, not yet married. And so maybe those were references that you're married because you had a wedding or a celebration rather of your love, but not an actual marriage ceremony. And we've seen quite a few times that individuals have submitted evidence that makes immigration have to take longer to review their case because they want to make sure the person didn't have an actual civil ceremony, a legally binding wedding. And again, there's so many examples, but it's really a matter of making sure that you're very meticulous. That's what we do with all of our clients, very meticulous in the evidence that we submit, because there are certain red flags. There are certain things that immigration looks for. And if there are red flags and contradictions, it can cause delays and denials. So hopefully that information was helpful. But again, those are the top 3 reasons that we have seen that can cause or lead to a denial on a K-1 fiancé visa case. And if you check out our resource center, immigrationforcouples.com, we have a free resource center. We have separate portals and resource centers for different case types that are related to immigration for couples. And we have a fiancé visa resource center with a checklist of the steps that happen and the flow of the case for fiancé visas, along with video tutorials to help you on your immigration journey. So I hope that was helpful.